The nervous system is a fascinating functional system in organisms. The nervous system has evolved from the first unicellular organisms, from the development of reactions to stimuli and external environments to the development of complex networks of super-specialized cells in the reception, generation, and transmission of stimuli. The complexity of the responses generated by the nervous system has reached its maximum expression and development in mammals. In these organisms, the nervous system is responsible for a great diversity of complex behaviors that involve not only the very individual but even a society, social behavior. In the case of human beings, it is responsible for complex and diverse functions such as emotions, language, creativity, or intelligence. Understanding how an interconnected network of super-specialized cells may encompass functions as the perception of such basics or elemental sensations as pain are so complex and abstract as to self-awareness is still a matter of intensity scrutiny. Structure and function. For study purposes and from the anatomical point of view, the nervous system has two major divisions. Central nervous system, which includes the encephalon and the spinal cord. The brain is subdivided into several hemispheres, the encephalon, brainstem, and cerebellum. On the other hand, the spinal cord divides into cervical, which has 8, then thoracic with 12, lumbar with 5, sacral with 5, and coccygeal with 1 segment. The peripheral nervous system, which comprises the totality of the peripheral nerves and their associated ganglia. These nerves, according to their origin, are subdivided into cranial, which has 12 pairs, and spinal nerves, which are related to the corresponding spinal segments. From a functional point of view, the nervous system divides into somatic or voluntary nervous system and autonomic nervous system. As its name says, the autonomic nervous system with its two divisions, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, controls the automatic bodily functions. In other words, all the vital functions which do not require the will, for example, breathing, control of heart rate, digestion, among others. The rest of the functional systems involved in the origin and regulation of voluntary behavior are considered part of the somatic or voluntary nervous system. In a simplified way, the nervous system can be divided into motor system, which includes all structures and areas of the nervous system involved in the generation and regulation of voluntary movements performed by individual, including the primary motor cortex, the premotor cortex, the supplementary motor, the corticospinal pathway, the basal ganglia, and the cerebellum, and the motor nerves that innervate the muscles. There's also the sensory system, which comprises all the structures and areas of the nervous system responsible for perceiving, discriminating, and interpreting the stimuli that the organism receives. These areas include the primary and secondary somatosensory cortex, as well as all the areas of the brain specialized in collecting the information on the spatial senses: vision, hearing, taste, proprioception, smell. The spinothalamic pathway, the thalamic nucleus, the dorsal root ganglia of the spinal nerves, the sensory nerves, and all the specialized receptors of the skin, retina, ear, etc. The cognitive system includes all areas, primarily of the cerebral cortex, involved in the generation and regulation of the more complex and abstract functions of the brain, such as language, memory, attention, judgment, mathematical calculation, reasoning, creativity, ability to solve problems, among others. They comprise primarily the different areas of the prefrontal cortex, although regions of the posterior and temporal parietal lobes also participate, as well as some subcortical structures such as the basal ganglia and the thalamus, and even the cerebellum. My Microscopic structure of the nervous tissue. At the microscopic level, the nervous system, especially the central nervous system, consists entirely of two main types of cells, neurons and glial cells. Neurons have great diversity of shapes and sizes. The fundamental parts of the neurons are soma or cellular body, and its prolongations, which can be of two types, axons or dendrites. These are specialized prolongations of a cellular cytoplasm of neurons that are primarily responsible for receiving information, chemical or electrical, from other neurons. Dendrites can be unique, but some neurons can host hundreds of them, such as Purkinje cells, found in the cerebellum. Axons are always single prolongations, usually longer, that consist of the cytoplasm specialized in the transmission of information to other neurons.
The glial cells are divided into several subtypes: the astrocytes, the oligodendrocytes, ependymal cells, microglial cells, and Schwann cells. The astrocytes are glial cells that have numerous extensions in the radial form, emulating a stellar appearance. It is the most abundant glial cell in the nervous tissue. The oligodendrocytes are glial cells characterized by having fewer prolongations. These cells are responsible for forming the protein that covers some of the axons of the central nervous system, called myelin. The microglial cells are tiny and few cells. They are the defense cells of the immune system in the central nervous system. Its function is to eliminate phagocyting. Schwann cells, they are the counterpart of the oligodendrocytes, but in the peripheral nervous system. The ependymal cells are glial cells that line the walls of the intercerebral cavities where cerebrospinal fluid flows, cerebral ventricles. The synapses are specialized sites that mediate communication between neurons, and there are two main types: the chemical synapses and the electrical synapses. The chemical are the interaction between the neurons is mediated by a chemical substance that are neurotransmitters, and electrical synapses in which there is no chemical mediator but a direct communication channel or port between the cells. Anatomically, the cerebral hemispheres are divided into lobes. The brain has 5 lobes that are the frontal, the parietal, temporal, occipital, and the insula. The frontal, voluntary motor activity, and a large part of the cognitive functions, memory, orientation, calculation, judgment, organization, planning, language, among others. The parietal, it has an essential function that has to do with the perception and analysis of the sensitive of the skin. The temporary, the most typical function is the memory, especially the short-term one, and some emotional functions. The occipital, it has primarily visual functions. The insular has multiple including some types of memory, sense of pain, and automatic and emotional functions. The diseases, there are 3 types of diseases: the Alzheimer, epilepsy, and Parkinson's disease. The Alzheimer is the most frequent cause of dementia worldwide. It can occur in individuals older than 60 years old and is characterized by the progressive loss of memory for recent events. The most affected memory is the so-called episodic memory, which is responsible for remembering. The epilepsy is one of the most frequent neurological diseases among the population. It is characterized by the presence and recurrence of various types of crises of cerebral origin, which can have very distinctive manifestations depending on the site of origin in the brain. The diverse manifestations of the crisis are related to the function of the affected brain area, that is, when the crisis originates in a motor area, the crisis will be motor, while if they arise in a sensory area, the crisis will be sensory. The Parkinson's disease is the second most frequent neurodegenerative disease after the Alzheimer. The presence of 3 cardinal symptoms characterizes this disease: tremor in the extremities, the limitation for muscle mobility, and slowness in general movements.
The endocrine system is made up of groups of cells that form glands isolate in the epithelium of the respiratory and digestive system. The action of hormones controls the functioning of organs and tissues to achieve chemical equilibrium. Adenohypophysis is constituted by endocrine cells surrounded by abundant blood capillaries. Neurohypophysis. It is formed by nerve fibers that are the axons of neurons, whose cell body is located in the hypothalamus. Pineal gland or epiphysis. It is located in the midline of the brain, on the roof of the third ventricle, and forms part of the epithalamus. It receives nervous innervation that connects the gland with the photoreceptor cells of the retina. Thyroid gland. It is located in the anterior part of the neck, above the trachea, surrounding it and turning at the esophagus. It is formed by two lobes joined at the isthmus, subdivided into lobules and connective tissue.
My name is Jorge Mauricio Gonzalez, and I'm going to explain you the second part of the endocrine system. The parafollicular cells are located at the outer surface of the follicles, which secrete the hormone calcitonin, whose function is to decrease the levels of calcium in the blood. Parathyroid glands, they are located in the neck and are attached to the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. There are four parathyroid glands, two superior and two inferior. They are surrounded by connective tissues. The parenchyma is formed by the chief and the occipitalic cells. Chief cells secrete the parathyroid hormone that increase the levels of calcium in the blood. Occipitalic cells do not secrete hormones, are less plentiful, and appear during puberty. Kidney glands, there are two, and they are located on the anterosuperior face of the kidney. This tissue is divided into cortex and medulla. The cortex corresponds to 80% of the gland and is divided into three zones that are glomerular, which secretes mineralocorticoid, fascicular, which secretes glucocorticoids, and reticular, which secretes androgens. Is regulated by hormone ASTH. The marrow is formed of connective tissue, ganglion cells, chromaffin cells, nerve fibers, and abundant capillaries. Chromaffin cells secrete adrenaline and norepinephrine during periods of stress and prepare us to confrontation of flight, since they increase heart rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. Pancreatic islets or islets of Langerhans. They are groups of cells that form clusters distributed in the pancreas. This organ is both an endocrine and exocrine gland. The pancreatic islets are formed by different cells types that secrete specific hormones, such as alpha, which secretes glucagon, and beta, which secretes insulin, both regulated blood sugar levels, delta, and PP, which controls the endocrine and exocrine secretion of the pancreas. Now I'm going to talk about the diseases that are hypothyroidism. It occurs when the thyroid gland does not produce enough thyroid hormones. The causes of this disease is the autoimmune disease, in which the body produces antibodies that attack the thyroid gland. Some signs or symptoms is when levels of thyroid hormones are low, cellular metabolism decreases, and body process begins to function slowly. Then signs and symptoms appear, such as fatigue, higher sensitivity to cold, constipation, dry skin, weight gain, weakness and muscle stiffness, joint pain, irregular or more abundant menstrual periods, weakening of the hair, decreased heart rate, depression, and memory impairment. The treatment to this disease is treated by administering natural or synthetic thyroid hormones. Mellitus diabetes is a disease in which the sugar levels in the blood remain high. There are two types: type 1, in which pancreatic islets do not secrete insulin, and type 2, which is the most common, is minus 90% of cases caused by a relative deficiency of insulin secretion or resistance to this. The causes: the type 1 is caused by the autoimmune destruction of pancreatic islet beta cells by antibodies produced by the same organism, and type 2 diabetes is the interaction between lifestyle, environmental factors, and genetic predisposition. Some symptoms are polyuria, urinating more abundant and frequently than usual, polydipsia, increased thirst, polyphagia, increased appetite, and weight loss and fatigue. The treatment consists in restoring normal blood glucose level. To the type 1, substitute treatment of insulin or insulin analogs is applied, and type 2 of diabetes is substitute treatment or insulin or analogs can be administered. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eduardo Garza Robles, and today I'm going to talk to you about the reproductive system. The reproductive system, both female and male combined with the endocrine system, is responsible for producing the gametes or sex cells that will give rise to a new beginning. The structure and function. This system consists of the gonads, ovaries, and testes, where the gametes originate, and of a series of conduits and organs to transport and house the gametes, as well as accessory glands that produce the necessary substance to protect the gametes. The reproductive system is responsible for pregnancy and childbirth. Now I'm going to talk to you about the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system is composed of the internal genital organs, the ovaries, the uterine tubes or oviducts, the uterus, and the vagina. External genitalia comprises the vulva. Ovaries are organs with the size of an almond that are responsible for the production of female gametes, oocytes. Ovaries are located in the pelvic cavity, one on each side of the uterus. As the maturation of the oocyte progresses, follicular cells increase in size and number of layers. Later, they are known as granulosa cells and are responsible for producing estrogen, the mature middle of the menstrual cycle. Uterine tubes, oviducts, or fallopian tubes. They are pairs of and tubular organs approximately 10 centimeters long. One end is attached to the uterus and the other is funnel-shaped and joins in the fimbriae that have a shape of skinny fingers to be able to catch the new ovulated oocyte. The uterus. The uterus is inverted, pear-shaped. Its average size is 7.5 centimeters long by 5 centimeters wide. In women without previous pregnancies, it has three parts: the upper zone, where the oviducts are inserted, and it is called fun. The portion of the center is the body, and the lower portion is the cervix, which extends to the vagina. Its functions are the implementation of fertilized ovum, allowing pregnancy and childbirth. The vagina is a tubular organ about 10 centimeters long, and its functions is to act as an outlet for the menstrual flow. It's also the receptacle of the penis during intercourse and constitutes the birth canal. The vulva includes the external genitalia, pubic scrotum, labia minora, labia majora, and clitoris and vestibule. There, and finally, we have the mammary glands, that are organs located in the anterior part of the thorax, and milk-producing cells are organized in dilatations called lactiferous sinus. The structures are responsible for milk production. Now, I'm going to talk to you about the menstrual cycles. Hormones regulate process as the maturation of oocytes, ovulation, and the preparation of the uterus for the implementation. Menstrual phase. Day 1 corresponds to the menstruation, originated when the fertilization is absent and consequently the levels of estrogen, progesterone diminish. Pre-ovulation phase. This phase goes from the end of the menstruation to ovulation. Also, in each ovary are follicles at different stages of maturation. In this phase of the cycle, only one of them and a single ovary will complete its maturation, and it will be ready for the oocyte to be ovulated. Ovulation. The peak of the estrogen production triggers in the pituitary gland the production of luteinizing hormone LH, which promotes the rupture of the mature ovulation follicle and releases the oocyte. Post-ovulatory phase. Ovulation. The peak of the estrogen production triggers in the pituitary gland the production of luteinizing hormone LH, which promotes the rupture of the mature ovulation follicle and releases the oocyte. Post-ovulatory phase. The ovarian follicle from which the oxide was released presents a small hemorrhage and subsequently the cells that comprise it are organized, giving origin to the corpus luteum and begin to produce progesterone and estrogen. Thank you.
Male reproductive system. The male reproductive system consists of the testicles, ducts to transport the sperm to the urethra, accessory glands, and the penis. Testicles are even organs located in the scrotal bags that keep them out of the abdominal cavity. This location allows the proper development of sperm since they need a temperature of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, lower than the body temperature. Conduits of the male reproductive system. Their function is to protect and drive the sperm from the testicles to the urethra. They start from the inside of the testis and continue with the epididymis, the vas deferens, and the ejaculatory duct. Accessory glands. The semen is made up of the sperm and the secretions of the accessory glands, which are the seminal vesicles, the prostate, and the bilateral or corpus glands. The secretion of the two seminal vesicles contributes 60% of the total of the semen that is used as an energy source by sperm. Since its pH is alkaline, it counteracts the acidic pH of the male urethra and the vagina. The penis. It is a copulatory organ. It has urethra, which is the route for ejaculation and emission of urine. Along the penis, the corpus cavernosum, which is a structure formed by erectile tissue that fills with blood during sexual arousal to maintain the erection of the penis. Next, I'm going to talk about the diseases or sexually transmitted infections. The first one is chlamydia, that is caused by the beginning of the infection. There are no symptoms. In the man, it manifests as inflammation of the urethra accompanied by burning and clear discharge, as well as frequent and painful urination. The next one is gonorrhea. The bacterium that causes this disease is Neisseria gonorrhea. It is an STD that has no symptoms in 5 to 10% of infected men and up to 50% of infected women. However, it is highly contagious since infected mucous membranes are the source of infection during oral, vaginal, and anal intercourse. The third one is syphilis, that is caused by the bacteria called Treponema pallidum. Its contagion is not only by sexual transmission but also by blood transfusions or from infected donors. Infected mothers transmit the disease from the fetus throughout the placenta. In the first stage, in the infected area, there is a region of hardening which is open and does not hurt, known as it disappears in a maximum of 5 weeks. Between 6 and 24 weeks later, fever, joint and muscle pain, and rashes appear. These symptoms occur because of the pathogen spread throughout the body. The fourth one is genital herpes. This is an incurable STD caused by herpes virus type 2 or HSV2. It produces painful blisters on the penis and vulva, including the vagina. Although the blisters disappear, the virus is still present in the body throughout life. This is why blisters can have very high risk of developing cancer in the cervix, which is one of the principal mortality causes of women in Mexico. The sixth one is the molluscum contagium, caused by MC virus, produces lesions in the form of small yellowish white hard rashes on the skin. This disease is not exclusively sexually transmitted. It also occurs during childhood and in immunosuppressed people. Then it is the AIDS or acquired immunodeficiency, the syndrome that is caused by human remain throughout the life in the body. Although the infected person does not have any symptoms, its contagion occurs throughout sexual exposure to semen or vaginal fluids of infected people. Since the virus is also found in the blood, it can be transmitted by blood transfusions or by having contact with the needles of contaminated syringes. Then the last one is hepatitis type B. The 5 types of virus produce viral hepatitis. Type B is spread sexually and also by the use of contaminated syringe, blood transfusions, saliva, and tears. These viruses cause liver cirrhosis and liver cancer. For this disease, some vaccines prevent infections.